Welcome to another edition of Bowie TV Sports Spotlight. During this hour, we're bringing you highlights from our shows focused on all things sports in the DMV. Please be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. First up on Pitt Sports Zone, hear from Bowie State softball head coach Ed Powell about his team's expectations for this upcoming season and the dominance they had during this week's CIAA Roundup. On Baltimore Ravens Rundown, hear from head coach Jesse Minter at the 2026 Owners Meeting. Lastly, on Washington Commanders Update, hear from Commander at the 2026 Owners Meeting. Don't go anywhere, and as always, enjoy this week's episode of Bowie TV Sports Spotlight. What's going on, everybody? You know what it is. I'm your host, Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, coming to you live yet again. You are tuned in to the Pitts and Powell show, and we have a familiar face. She's definitely not a stranger. Sydney, how have you been? Where have you been? Update to the viewers and listeners about why you've been absent.
Oh my goodness. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for having me back, Fitz. I missed this platform. Uh I've been working, doing great things, still trying to finish school and all of that. But I've been really blessed and I'm excited to be back.
Absolutely. Go ahead and do your thing.
Okay, well, joining us today is the head coach of Bowie State University's powerhouse softball team,
Okay.
Coach Edward Powell. Since taking over the program, Coach Powell has built the Bulldogs into a dominant force in the CIAA, leading the team to three consecutive conference championships and earning CIAA Coach of the Year honors. Bowie State University's softball has consistently been one of the top programs in the conference under his leadership, highlighted by record breaking seasons, standout all CIAA talent, and national recognition. From developing elite players to creating a winning culture, Coach Powell has truly elevated the standard of excellence for Bowie State University's softball team. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Sydney. Oh, I don't know who all that was about. That's why I'm confused. I'm like, who is that person? I want to meet that person. But thank you so much for this.
Man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Coach, since we last spoke, so
Yeah,
much has
man.
happened. The last time we spoke, we talked about the not so much the challenges,
Yeah.
but the adversity that the team was facing by playing some of the upper top, tier schools, and how the adversity would at some point gel the team in a direction once they get to the CIAA. And by gosh, doggone it didn't happen almost immediately.
Yeah, well, the plan, I mean, it didn't really look all that clear when we first started. You know what I mean? It just from day one, from the first game out against FAMU to the last game against Shaw, it was the plan just started to get clearer and clearer, you know what I mean? But we started off rough. It started off rough, but I like where we are as a team right now, and I like where in the direction that we're headed. So that's for sure.
Coach, just to kick it off, one of the things, and I really want to go into the six games individually,
Mm,
and short segments, right? Because one thing that I've noticed, and this is just from an overall standpoint, was I looked at the errors, right?
hmm
I look at the hits and I look at the errors, and I see that the errors have been trending downward, which tells you that the team is starting to get comfortable with that continuity that you and I always talk about. They're being able to develop that now as they play more, and just talk about just from a perspective these past 6 weeks. Just talk about the aura that your team carried going into the CIAA as a whole, and then we'll break down. And now Sydney will go and then we'll break down each game.
Yeah. So just talking about going into the CIAA roundup, we were looking to try to build some momentum because we were 4-12, and the last two outings when we went to West Virginia, we were starting to build and starting to gel then. And then we kind of took, kind of what we had learned by playing West Virginia Concord. I think we played Salem and Slippery Rock. We kind of took those experiences, and kind of just went with kind of the experience that we felt like we were going to continue to compete. You know what I mean? And I definitely, the errors were down, but I think that part of the errors being down was really about our pitchers and catchers really coming through. You know what I mean? They have a job to do. And if they can get 6 to 7 outs in a game, if they can get 9 outs, that's great. Then that means we only have to, in the field, only have to get 11 outs. You know what I mean? So that makes that task a little bit easier. So that's where we are. That's where we, that's kind of where we ended up. We can talk more about the individual games, but as a group, as a whole, we came in and kind of did what we thought we could do, you know what I mean? But it wasn't easy. Let me say that right now. It was not easy.
Absolutely.
Well, Coach, what's the biggest thing you want your team to carry from this weekend into the next stretch of games?
Good question. So we have built momentum, and so we just want to carry that momentum continuous into this weekend when we play Goldie Beacom, just to continue the, really the fight, really the competition, to be able to compete, on every pitch, every inning, every opportunity. We just want to compete, let's just compete.
Yeah.
When you talk about the momentum, right? You talk about going into this game. And before I get to that question, I got a comment on Instagram. Shout out to the alumni of Bowie State that tune in every time Coach and I speak. We are definitely grateful for your viewership. We ask that you share it, just so the alum who may not be privy to the knowledge and understanding of what Bowie State softball has been doing and what they're on the cusp of being able to do this year is unreal. So shout out to Gerard Hines. He says y'all have been killing the CIAA Go Bulldogs. Proud of them.
Thanks. Love that. Love that.
Coach.
Yeah, man.
We respect everybody.
Yeah.
But we ain't afraid of nobody.
Yeah, no.
You open up the CIAA Roundup against your nemesis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
In Atlanta for the HBCU softball invitational, they won that game, and there was definitely some things shared social media wise after that. Talk about your team's thought process and energy going into this game, with this being the kickoff of the CIAA Roundup. Of the CIAA Roundup.
I think we went in really focused. We kind of we really went in focused. That's the word I'm gonna use, it because that's kind of what we went into. We knew, we kind of, the schedule was already laid out for us, so it wasn't like, we didn't know who we were playing, and we went in knowing that they're not gonna give it to us. It's not gonna be, a whole lot of runs scored. If it is, it's gonna be a close game with a lot of runs scored, or it's gonna be a close game with not a lot of runs scored. You know what I mean? So let's just go in prepared to compete, to really compete. And then literally that's what we, kind of, that was the conversation. And like I said before, we treat every game, no different than the other. We like to think that we do get up a little bit. I'm gonna be honest, Claflin, they have a lot of athletic players, so we got to come and bring all our athleticism, bring all our cheering, bring all our focus, to come out on top. So, we bring all of that, and then they bring what they have, and then we see how it shows, see how it show up, So we came out on top that time.
Sydney, I love Coach because Coach is so modest. Yeah. He really is. He knew exactly what I was doing, and he took a class on this, because he did a Cupid shuffle all the way around. So go ahead, Sydney.
Well, obviously, you've curated an amazing team of softball players, given your success over the weekend. But were there any players who really stepped up and stood out or set the tone for the team this weekend?
Ooh, it would. Okay, so this is really a hard question because we talk about all 23, all 24 players at some point has to show up. Everybody has a responsibility, depending on what the game is. And sometimes it's the dugout cheering, you know what I mean? That kind of pulls us through. Sometimes it's one play, or sometimes it's two plays or two players. But, that's why it's called a team. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? One person can't, one person, one game may be the success. But you know what I mean? But to win 6 games, it took all 23 players to show up and contribute in so many different ways. So, to call out, the people that I may call out, they it's gonna be a senior. You know what I mean? Coco Dunham, shows up every game. He's ready to compete, ready, to give it all, and also in a leadership role, So because she's our senior, we also have another senior. Ryan wasn't able to make it. She had her grandmother um was ill, so you needed to stay back. But I'm gonna definitely say Coco. We have so many other players that showed up, but definitely Coco as our one of two seniors showed up really well.
Absolutely, and prayers up for Ryan and her
Yes.
family.
Yep.
Uh,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Ryan definitely carries an energy that I'm sure is
Yeah.
missed on the team.
Yeah. Ryan has a special kind of energy that we all love, Ryan for.
Absolutely,
So definitely miss Ryan. I hope grandma
absolutely,
gets better. You know what I mean? And prayers up for her.
absolutely. I just want to say this out in the chat because I see a lot of Bowie State softball players that are watching live.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to
Oh
let
yeah.
you. I want to let you ladies know that if you want, y'all can ask Coach a question too. So in
Ah,
the comment, the viewers watching, if you have a question that you want to ask Coach, fire it away, and we don't mind sharing it out there. So, Coach,
yeah.
go to Winston. You start off with Claflin, and then the
Yep.
second game, I believe, is shout out to Taylor. Taylor said, "Hey, now give me an
Yeah.
opportunity, and
Oh
I'll
yeah,
take it."
Taylor. Oh, Taylor. I know Taylor's on. I know Taylor's on.
That's my girl.
Yeah.
So, you talk about start out with Claflin, and then you play Winston Salem.
No,
Talk
we played
about,
Livingstone.
I
Livingstone.
mean, I mean
Livingstone.
Livingstone, right?
Yeah, 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 Livingstone.
Talk about keeping the team's morale when you shift from different opponents and the different strengths and strategies because each team is set up or is strength differently than the previous one.
I like this question just because I actually prepared for it because I looked at it. Um, the preparation to play Claflin and the preparation to play Livingstone wasn't any different. And here's the thing that I love the most. The team was just as excited to win the game against Livingstone as they was to win the game against Claflin. The excitement in the end of both of those games were the exact same level. You know what I mean? And so that's one thing that I was really excited about. You know what I mean? So that kind of told me that, we are right where we need to be. You know what I mean? They were excited to beat, to win the Claflin game. They were just excited to win the Livingstone game. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, we going in and we expecting to beat Livingstone and we expecting to beat Claflin. No, we excited to come away with the victory because of the work that they put in. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's what that was about, man. So but we were glad to come away first day 2-0 for sure. You know.
Yeah. You're on mute, Sid.
I'm so sorry.
No, you
But
good.
what does a weekend like this teach you about your team's ability and identity as a group and as a whole?
Mm. So we've been battle tested. We've been battle tested, and then what it tells me is that um, honestly, our team was they were even keel. Like when the games were tight and games were like, we had some close games, but they never got rattled. They were really calm in the situation, and all that has to do with the previous schedule that we had played. We had played a lot of tough games early on that we lost by one run, but we were really competitive in those games. And so when we get to our conference and the games are close, we're winning those one run games. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that tells me that the road that we took to get there was the one that we were supposed to take. Yeah, but it was a whole lot of bumps in that road. But that was the one we were supposed to take.
Coach, when we talk about day two, you go 2-0 the first
Hmm.
game.
Hmm.
The second day, you go 2-0. What was it that when you talk about going 2-0, the energy, the excitement carrying over, what was the carryover like for your team going into, was that the quick reset, relax, refocus, and we're back to a new opponent? Or did you see a carryover of energy, a carryover of excitement, regardless of the opponent, that they were just willing and ready to go out there on a dime?
Yeah, you touched on it perfectly. Once we got to Raleigh, once we got to Walnut Creek, and after, the first game, we never the enthusiasm, the competition level, the energy of what we brought never dropped. It was up every day. It wasn't like we had to go back to the well and get the energy, and then we empty the energy, and then we got to go back and get it. Once the level of energy was raised, it stayed that way. So from the first time we played, first inning we played Claflin, to the last inning against Shaw, it was the energy level never dropped.
Yeah.
How did
And
your team handle like the pressure of maintaining an undefeated weekend and the steps to like to the wins that just kept stacking up? How did they maintain that pressure?
We don't talk about it. We
mm,
don't, yeah, we don't talk about it. We go to the next one, get to the next one, because the last one's always over. So we got this new saying now, is that, so what, now what? You
mm,
know what I mean? And that means, like, you know what, if we made a mistake, so what, now what? You know what I mean? And
mm,
so we took that into every day. So what we won the next, so what we won the last game, now what?
Mm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so if you hear so what, now what, that's what it means.
That's all
You know what I
y'all.
mean? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah.
wow. So we got another powerism. I think
Yeah,
I just heard another powerism.
that's
And,
what
and,
that's what the
and,
players
and
always say. uh
listen, and shout out to my girl Kyla Richardson.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, the powerisms, for those who may not be aware, the powerisms are these. Early on, when me and Coach was talking, Coach said before they left for the HBCU Invitational, because they're going up against FAMU, North Carolina A&T,
Mm.
um,
Alcorn State,
Alcorn
Alcorn
State,
State, yeah.
Albany State,
Albany State,
and
and Claflin,
they're
and
going
Claflin,
up in,
yeah.
they're going up against some good teams in the FCS, right?
Hmm.
And one thing that Coach made explicitly clear was, we respect everybody, but we ain't afraid of nobody,
uh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So then to say, so what? Now what?
So what,
You
now what?
know.
Yeah.
So and I like that, right? Because there's nothing that happened in the game, whether win or loss, that couldn't be rectified in the next game.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's it.
Man,
Yeah, man. No,
I like that. So
and it
what?
really,
Now what?
yeah. So
Another
it really came.
T-shirt.
It really came from one of my players. I was really trying to figure out how to help her at bat. Just try to, don't worry about the last one. Let's get ready, because she was a really. I mean, she's one of our, best contact hitters, best hitters on the team. And at some point, she just wasn't kind of, it wasn't clicking for her. And I was like, I know she got it. So I was like, hey, so what? Now what?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So what, you missed the last, no much, you struck out. So what? Now what?
Yeah.
Now what we gonna do? And she kind of embodied that. You know what I mean? She kind of embodied that. So now I was like, oh, then that's what's gonna work for the whole team. So now we make a mistake. So what? Now what?
He gets traded. There's a little bit of that fresh start. Kind of gave him a new life, I would say. Just going to a new place. We connected really well, and I think we had a lot of confidence in how we were trying to use him. We try to breed confidence into him and his ability as a pass rusher, and his ability to impact the game. Very happy for him. Very proud of him. And I think Washington got a good player.
Jesse, John Harbaugh over the years sort of didn't play players in preseason, starters, veterans. What is your, I know you probably don't have the plan in place yet, but what is your thought process on playing veterans in preseason, how you plan to approach that?
I think it's a little bit more individually based maybe than just full on, whatever, starters, non-starters. I think there's guys that are young that can benefit from getting out there a little bit. To me, it's all about trying to be ready for that first game. And so I just think there's things football-wise that you need to do to be ready to hit the ground running in that first game. So everything will be geared towards that, about getting the team healthy, fast, and fresh into that first game. So all decisions made will point towards that.
Yes, with Nnamdi, I know that's still, it sounds like very TBD. Do you guys have, I guess, from your standpoint, sort of contingency plans one way or the other, whether he's back or whether he's not back?
Yeah, I think you're always, for everything, I think you always try to have a plan in case something happens. I know that he's in a great place mentally. He's doing a lot of stuff. That's still a kind of a to-be-determined thing, I would say. And so we certainly, as an organization, you certainly have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, all the way down the line. And so we'll be excited whichever way that goes.
Because is there optimism there, would you say, with his situation?
I'll leave that up to him. Love him as a player, love him as a person. I've seen some of the videos of him doing things. I know he just feels good being back, like working out, doing things like that. But I'll leave all that up to him.
Do you know when there might be a decision made?
I don't know that there's like a hard line timeline on that.
Coach Minter, and someone may have asked this, it just came up. The offseason program starts next week. So how just the whole entire preparation this offseason, I'm sure has been a lot. Can you just share a bit about getting ready for that next week?
Yeah, that's kind of like the thing we've been most excited about, is getting to that point. So all the work has been geared towards being ready for that day that the guys walk in the door. We need to capture that. We want to create an environment where we capture the players and they feel like they're getting a lot out of it. And so we put a lot of time and energy into that, and excited for it to get started.
Just other injury updates. Do you have an update on Justice Hill or any of the rookies last year who had season-ending injuries?
Yeah, probably have more updates later on throughout the offseason program.
Yes, with the offensive line, that was a big point of contention, last season. How do you? I know it's a long way for decisions and things like that, but kind of how do you view what you guys will do there, particularly at center and the two guard spots?
Yeah, I think we added John. I think there's a lot of time between now and September to continue to add pieces. Multitude of ways that you can still add pieces with, still free agency, the draft, obviously. And so, I know Ozzy's always said it, like it's a long time between now and the early part of September when you're playing. And so super confident in the group that we have in place right now. Super confident that those guys will work really hard this offseason, that we'll put together a good offensive line, and that we'll continue to add pieces throughout the roster that we feel will help us become the best team we could be.
Since you arrived, what have you learned about or from Dwayne Ledford, and how has that shaped you as a backer?
Yeah, I love Coach Ledford. He was actually, I want to say, maybe the first or second coach hired. So I have a lot of confidence in him. and he just, I think he has a really strong way of connecting with those guys, getting them to play a certain way, a certain style, with a certain play demeanor. And so, yeah, we, like anything, I think the guys are excited to connect with him. He's already built a lot of relationships with the guys returning. And then, again, there's a lot of time between now and then to add more pieces, but I have a lot of confidence in him to get our offensive line right.
And talking to Lamar, I'm sure you're probably asking, what would he like to see out of, the coach staff or anything? What is kind of his been responsible and what he would like to see maybe out of you guys?
Yeah, again, like a lot of that stuff probably keep between Lamar and I, but I just think that he's excited for us to connect, for us to build a relationship, for us to trust each other, for us to be able to talk through things, for us to take his input on things, but also, being willing to talk through it and not just, go with something. And so I'm just excited about him. You don't become the level of player that he has without a great work ethic, without being a great teammate, without being a leader. And so just excited for him to continue to grow and evolve and become an even better version of Lamar.
Derrick Henry's had 2 great seasons in Baltimore. What's your vision for what he'll continue to do this season?
Yeah, I'm so excited about Derrick. Having a running back like that, getting downhill, running the football, being able to control the clock, being able to control the offense through the running game, I think is very powerful. Look at the teams again that have done it the last few years. Having a really strong running game has been a huge part of that. The last 2 Super Bowl champions, and so we feel like he's a major piece of how we operate and how we're going to operate. And couldn't be more excited to have him. He's had an unbelievable career, and then even more so the last 2 years. It's like, the way that he works. There's some guys that get better with age, and I would say that he kind of fits into that category.
To that point about the running game, tight ends, generally a big part of that. You guys really just have Mark in terms of experienced guys. What's been the conversation and how important is adding to that group for you guys between now and September?
Certainly. It's a major part of any offense, I would say. Being able to control the edges in the run game and being able to obviously be receiving threats. We think Mark's one of the best players in the league at that position. And we'll certainly, again, like a lot of time between now and September to continue to add pieces there. It's a major focal point of our offense. And so we'll certainly look to keep adding there.
What's your view of your outlook draft-wise in terms of your involvement in the process and working with the scouts and Eric?
Yeah, it's very collaborative. It's what I remember from being here the first time is I think they do a great job of kind of bringing the coaches into that process, and so that they feel, that they get a feel for what type of players we really like and things like that. I think we're on the same page. I really learned how to evaluate players here the first time, and so I think we see a lot of that the same way. We just look forward to kind of being involved in that process, talking about the guys that we like, and helping Eric to make the best decisions possible for the organization.
Have you evaluated offensive guys?
No, that's been fun. That's been a neat thing to do, is to really expand on that. I've always taken pride in being a good evaluator on the defensive side. So it's been really cool to evaluate offensive linemen and wide receivers and kind of get the feel for what you're looking for, what are the traits, what makes them really good players. And so that's been a fun part of the process.
Sorry, how different is it? Because I do watching the guys that played against, right? So you probably already see them. Because how do you apply what you already know from evaluating?
Yeah, I think there's just like qualities of a player in certain positions that you're looking for. Athletic traits, obviously the size, speed component, but then you're really also like looking for a play style and how they operate, how they play. When you're talking about offensive linemen, like what do you want that to look like? And so it's been really just a fun thing to dive into that and use like maybe you're watching a really good D lineman and now you're watching the offensive lineman trying to block them, and so it's been a fun part of the process.
I don't think we talked to you since you guys added Jalen Hawkins. How much, what can he bring, and how excited are you as a, defensive guy, defensive backs guy?
Very excited about Jalen. Obviously, he had a great year. Super Bowl all the way there. basically was a full-time starter the whole season. Played, I think, over 85% of the snaps for New England. And so, again, like that safety position for us, we have a chess piece in Kyle. And so when you have a couple other guys there, similar to what they did last year when they brought in Alohi, that allows you to do a lot of different things with Kyle. And so Jalen's a great player. I think him and Malachi will operate really well together, and I think that'll allow us to do a lot of cool things with Kyle. And I was telling Kyle the other day, like those three guys on the field together, it's going to be fun to come up with things to utilize those three guys.
Jesse Fullwell.
Three safeties a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's if you just look at what I've done the last couple of years, with a guy like Derwin James and the safeties there, I think we want to be really versatile. We want to have a lot of different types of pieces. But again, it's like taking those guys and putting them in the position to most impact the game. So we'll figure out what that looks like. But certainly want to be able to move those guys around.
Jesse Fullwell acknowledging that depth charts in late March don't mean a whole lot. Do you view yourself as having a starting center on the roster, and who would that guy be right now?
Again, you just said it at the beginning, like depth charts right now, it's pretty irrelevant. We're excited about a couple of the guys that we've added. We're excited about some of the guys on the roster. We're going to let that sort itself out through competition, all the way into training camp. We're going to use the offseason program not to be overly competitive, but really just to teach our offense and our defense and our special teams, get reps at the things that we need to get reps at. And then the real competition will be in training camp, and I'm sure by then we'll have even more pieces added into that competition.
Emory Jones has a lot of versatility and was kind of limited by injuries. Do you have a vision for him yet, or do you still need to figure that out?
I'm excited about him. I think he came on late in the year, did some good things. He was very highly thought of, in the draft process, even though he was coming off the injury. And so, again, excited for him just to have that opportunity to be healthy, go into an offseason, really learn a new offense, and compete for jobs, and very excited about his future.
As you mentioned, basically all three phases kind of being different with the changes. How important is it that you guys are able to get players to learn things quickly, so we can move on to the next thing? And how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, I think you got to be careful, honestly. I think the most important thing is creating the foundation of each three phases first. And so the way that the phase of the offseason program works, in my mind, they give you that opportunity to build a foundation for the first couple phases before you're really out there doing a lot of reps. And so we got to be really cognizant of not trying to go too fast and making sure that they understand the foundational pieces, the foundational structures that we operate in. And so, yeah, I'm stoked about that process.
I'm guessing you probably looked at Mike Green, who was coming out in the draft, and saw obviously what he did last year, had some flashes. What do you do for him to see this year?
Yeah, I got a lot of confidence in Mike Green. Loved him coming out. He was high on our board there. And so I was joking with him. We had brought him in, I think, for a 30 visit last year. And so it's meant to be now that we're together. And so very excited. And I think now he'll have a guy in the room in Trey that he can really learn from, that he can learn some of the nuances of rushing the passer. Those guys will work well together. Oftentimes when you have a guy on one side, it creates even more opportunities for the guy on the other side. And so Mike should be very excited because I feel like he's going to have a lot of opportunities to impact the game. And we're excited about him. And just like anybody, I think your first year to your second year is often a big jump. And just understanding, the level that it takes, the preparation that it takes, and so excited about Mike.
Coach Minter, when you look at your special teams unit and how they, special teams impacts the game, can you share a little bit about what you want to see there from that group?
Yeah, I want a group that on special teams that's innovative, that changes the game for us in a positive way. That we're not just trying to, hang on special teams. We want to be aggressive. We want that to be a weapon for us. And so we just want our players to really play with that one-shot mentality on special teams. Offense and defense, it's often, 3-play drive, 6-play drive, 9-play drive. The beauty of special teams, it's really a one-shot play. And so for us to have that mindset, super confident in the players that we have, the coaches that we have, that special teams will be a weapon for us.
Jesse, with everything that's gone on this offseason and kind of the adjustment for you, what's it kind of been like just working with Eric as far as, there's been some high-profile stuff that's gone on. How have you kind of managed the ups and the downs of losing players, adding guys, controversies, just dealing through that? Because I imagine you were part of some of that, but not to this extent where you're talking to the GM like regularly about it.
I think when you go through things together, you learn a lot about each other, and I think Eric and I have only strengthened our relationship through the things that we've gone through. I think both of us stay pretty level-headed. I think I'm an optimist, and so I'm always, I just think Eric does such a great job. And so when all the decisions that you make are collaborative and thought out and in the best interest of the organization, it's easy to work with people like that. And so it's been a great process working with everybody in the organization. We've learned a lot about each other, like you said, sometimes through the things that have happened. And most of the time it's about how you respond to those types of things. And so we've responded well. We're in a good place. We'll continue to build a roster between now and September. But it's been a great process to work with Eric.
Jesse, in the wide receiver room, you got Zay, an established two-time Pro Bowler. Let's talk about a little bit what you've seen on film from Devontae a couple of years too, and also Rashad coming off the year where he was playing and didn't have the year that he had last year. What you've seen from him?
Yeah, I got a lot of confidence in Rashad Bateman. You look at what he's done in his career. He's been a really productive player. He's coming off of a year like a lot of guys. Sometimes when you're coming off of a year that you're like, he's disappointed in how the year went, and so I know he's hungry. He's ready to get back to what he is. There's a lot of confidence in him, and a lot of confidence in that whole room, just to continue to grow opportunities for young players. Really excited about them, and I think they'll be a big part of our offense. And then Zay's proven to be, I think, one of the best players in the league at his position. Love Zay. He's like, man, what you want in a guy when he walks in the room. He lights up the room. He's got leadership skills. He brings everybody with him. So love Zay, and I'm very excited about that room overall.
I saw you and Zay talk a little bit today. Are you guys, how's the process going to build a relationship?
Yeah, same. I mean, it's just, again, like those opportunities to be around each other outside of football are, I mean, those are so valuable. Kind of see who I am outside of the building, see who he is outside of the building. Great opportunity. We had a lot of fun that day. And so look forward to being able to do that with a lot of the guys.
Just how much time, I know there's limits in what you can do, availability, but how much time have you spent kind of getting to know players? Has that been sort of a focal point for you in building relationships?
It is, but at the same time, like when there's a good amount of guys that come through the building, and some of them train there, some of them pop in and out. So it's been great. I think in person is the best way to really build a relationship. So certainly have exchanged a lot of messages, some phone calls, all that with a lot of the different guys. But again, like as these guys start coming back in on a regular basis, that'll be a major focal point for the whole coaching staff.
And when you've gone to different places, whether it's like in Vanderbilt, Michigan, and you've been in charge of defense, what do you feel is, and you've had good defenses there, what do you feel is kind of the main thread and kind of the foundation for having a great defense?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a style of play that you need to play, and so I think it's not really scheme related. It's like there's what you play and then there's how you play, and how we play, how we teach the fundamentals of the game, how we teach how we take on blocks, tackling, the angles that we take to the ball, how we try to affect the football. Those things are the foundational pieces, I think, of how we play. And then I think the scheme, like, to me, is just you always have to be evolving. And so there's things that we did last year that we won't do this year, vice versa. It's evolved so much every year. And I think that's how you try to stay ahead of it. Like the respect that I have for the offensive coaches that you're going against, the work that they're putting in, the time that they're putting in. So to ever think that you've figured it out and you don't need to continue to evolve is crazy. So it's a constant evolvement. But the foundational piece of how you play, I think is really what allows you to continue to evolve scheme-wise.
Jesse, what has it been like so far working with Anthony Weaver? And what is the process of figuring out kind of that relationship, how the responsibilities,
Yeah, Weave's awesome to work with. I mean, the great thing is he's been a coordinator. He's called defenses for the last couple of years, did a really good job in Miami. And I know that he can lead the room. I know that he can lead the coaches. I know that he can lead the players. I know that I don't have to be there all the time. We've got a great working relationship. We're figuring each other out, like scheme-wise and how all that's going to fit together. But I know this, that there's not a leader any better than Anthony Weaver, so I'm super excited about him.
Jesse, what impressed you about Duncan after just one year in Chicago?
Man, everything. I think he's just wise beyond his years. He's really smart. He's innovative. He's, again, always evolving, always trying to find a better way to do things, but has these standards of how the offense is going to play from an effort, from a blocking standpoint. So just really excited about him and what he's going to do with our offense.
Jesse, do you plan to name captains full time, or will it be a game?
That's an ongoing conversation right now. I think there's benefits to doing it both ways, and so trying to figure out which direction of that will best benefit the 26 Ravens.
Tyler Luke had a pretty solid rookie season. Obviously, didn't end the way he wanted it to. For you, is Tyler Luke going to be? Is he the kicker for your team, or do you plan to bring in competition?
Got a lot of confidence in Luke. He had a great rookie year, and obviously you're judged by what happens, but we have a lot of confidence in him. He's having a great offseason. He's putting in a lot of time trying to improve, like everybody. So I have a lot of confidence in him going forward.
Sorry. No. So is the plan to bring competition in, or is he going to be the?
I mean, truthfully, we'll see how it goes. I think you could certainly add another guy there to have another guy in training camp. But again, just have a lot of confidence in him going forward.
How are you prepping for the game management?
Yeah, it's ongoing. It's a lot of conversations. We hired Charlie from Indianapolis to be the kind of in the game management role. And so we have these weekly meetings, and we're already kind of talking through how we see that going. We'll develop, I think, for us, how we want to have a strategy going into games and how we want to operate. Also knowing that things can change in the middle of a game. And so I think I'm a guy love numbers, love data, but at the end of the day, you got to make the best human decision in that moment. And so I'm just excited about the opportunity to be in those positions.
With Declan Doyle, as far as his experience and how young he is, and that's not your side of the ball, to throw him the car keys, how much of a leap of faith was that?
Yeah, I mean, I think whoever was in that position, it was going to be a leap of faith, knowing my involvement on the other side of the ball, as you mentioned. But going through a really thorough interview process with Declan, talking to a lot of people, especially now being around him even more, have a lot of confidence in Declan that he's going to do a great job. There's going to be ups and downs, and he's going to be really steady, I think, managing ups and downs. He's going to have a great relationship with the players. I think we have a great staff around him to really help him out on our offensive side of the ball. So just very, very excited about Declan and the entire offensive staff.
You have to have all those plans, right? Because you don't ever know. That free agency is very unpredictable, and so you think you can have the best situation, the right people, the right coaches, the right scheme for somebody, and they still don't come to you for whatever reason that is. And sometimes it's a great reason, sometimes you don't think it's as good of a reason, but you can't count on that. So you really kind of just go down the line and just always keep your options open. And I think there was a point there where we made a couple signings, and okay, let's just sit back and reassess and see where we're at and let some things come to us. And that's what happened this year, and we were able to get some guys that I didn't think we were going to be able to get, and we're really happy that we got them.
How important that not having as many draft picks this year? Obviously, you have the 7th overall pick, but traded some of those with some deals the last few years. Did that make you more aggressive in free agency, just knowing that you wouldn't have as many shots at it in April?
Yeah, I think it was just more we needed to bring a lot of good players in. So obviously, with fewer picks, you're not going to have, we don't have a second, we don't have a fourth for Laramie, which, I'm fine with that, But So you do have those holes in the draft, but I think it's just more we just needed to get some good players in here and guys that fit our play style, and I think did a really good job of working together with the coaches to achieve that.
How do you feel the receivers room is now? Is that a place where you still would like to add, or kind of what's your view of it?
Yeah, I think really every room is a room we'd still like to add. I mean, it's March 30th right now, so. But in terms of that room specifically, I mean, obviously we have Terry. Terry's number one receiver. We brought Traylon back, which I'm really excited about. I think he's got another level to go to. He showed us a lot, at practice and in the games when he was able to make some plays there. Luke and Jalen, another couple guys that are, being a year older and we're excited about. And then bringing Diami back, getting Van. We have a couple young guys in there too. So I like the room right now, but I think just like everywhere, we have a lot of time to add before we play in September.
How high of a priority was it to get a little bit more athleticism in the middle of the field with the linebacker, with bringing Leo and him working with Lou and company?
Yeah, I think it's really more athleticism everywhere, so not just the middle of the field, but certainly wanted to be faster. And so Leo definitely fits that bill, and really as most of the guys we brought in fit that bill in terms of that. So the whole reason we signed him was just because that clip where he jumped up on the bus, that was it for me. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it speaks to his athleticism, but he's certainly another guy who we think has another level to him. He's hungry. He really wanted to be with us, and he's versatile, so he can play on the edge of the line of scrimmage. He can play off the ball. He was a really good special teams player. He can drop in coverage. So his athleticism, his versatility, and he's young and he's hungry to prove that he can be a better player than he was at the Chiefs, which he was pretty good.
When you get into the draft, understanding how fluid the draft is, how much does what you've done in free agency impact what you do, especially early on?
Yeah, I think one of the things we wanted to do was make it so we don't have to force a pick, right? We don't have to pick for need. We don't have to pick a certain position. So we're in that position now. So it's really just, especially with that pick number 7's a big pick. And so just finding someone who can really impact our team, impact our team right away and impact our team long term. So whoever that is, and there's a lot of good players in there, but with what we did in free agency, it's not like, okay, we have to go get this because we have a gaping hole here or there. And you guys can debate on, where we need to add and all that, and I understand that, but for where we sit, we don't feel like we need to reach for anything right now.
Is it harder to get a feel for what teams like doing this draft compared to other years? Or do you have a different, at this point in the time, do you have a sense, or is it harder than previous years?
Yeah, that's a great question because I feel that way. Like I have no idea who's going to be there at 7 right now. I mean, there's a couple guys that I know are going to be gone, but then how that goes after that, I don't know, and it changes every week. I think if you look at a mock draft this week, next week, the next week, it's kind of changed. So it'll probably get a little more clear as we get closer to the draft, and obviously we're still right in the middle of our draft meeting, so the more work you can put in. We still have a lot of touch points with the guys. We have 30 visits coming in, so kind of getting an understanding of the landscape and who these guys are even a little bit more. But yeah, it's a mystery to me right now, and so we just got to be ready for anybody.
Because of that, does that make it harder to maybe have teams move around in that first round?
Yeah, I honestly don't. Without having a ton of quarterbacks, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of moving around or moving back. I wouldn't anticipate it. You don't really see that happening. Unless it's for a quarterback, because it's pretty costly to do that if you want to move up. But so yeah, I haven't heard much about that in terms of teams moving around.
Given how few running backs have been taken as high as 7, would you have any trepidation about taking one there?
I mean, I wouldn't have any trepidation about taking anyone at 7 that I think can really help our team, that we think can really help our team. But also we got Bill in the 7th round last year, so you can get running backs at a lot of different ways. But certainly, if we think that any running back or any really position, no matter what it is, if it's there's the premium positions, as people would say, and there's positions that are maybe less premium, depending on who you ask. But if that person can impact your team in a certain way, then you would take them, regardless of their position.
You said when you guys took Jade that you knew pretty early on that
yeah.
this was for you. Understanding that teams 1 through 6 will determine the board, do you know right now who you would want to take if you were given the choice?
No.
With the mysterious nature of this draft, I guess, maybe this is silly, but when you guys go to pro days, you guys have guys in for your visits.
Mhm.
Is there ever any thought of, we don't want to tip people off about who we want to bring in because nobody really knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think there's definitely strategy to that in terms of how much time or how much work you put into certain guys, but at the same time you also want to know as much as you can about these guys, have as many touch points as you can. So does that mean you don't do a 30 visit because of that? Because then you're missing an opportunity to spend time with them, and our scouts have done an excellent job starting really in August all the way until now of getting as much information as possible. But as we go through that process, we're still learning about these guys, and we're still asking questions and learning new things. And there's guys that I haven't seen, there's guys that DQ hasn't seen that we'd like to spend some time with. So to me, that's a great question. That outweighs the kind of cloak and dagger element of not bringing guys in. I've done that in the past where we just didn't talk to somebody after the combine when we picked them. But I don't know, how much that really matters. Like, does the team at number 5 really care who we like?
Right.
I mean, I hope not. I hope they just
8
pick. Yeah, but I mean, enough to trade up. I don't know.
There's been a lot of conversation about some of the guys at the top of this draft are at non-premium positions, including like a running back. And part of the conversation is like with the economics of it. Like, if you draft that player, it's just not as the price later on, especially, is not as high as some other ones. Therefore, maybe it's not making a good value play from a salary cap perspective. Does that matter to you at all? Or
Yeah.
just the talent?
You consider it, yeah, but I really consider more how much they can impact us, and talking with our coaches, talking with the staff and the other scouts, like, okay, how much can this player impact us, and whether you're saying it's a running back, whether it's a safety, whether it's a linebacker that are non-premium positions, but at the same time, like I had Fred Warner in San Francisco, and I can't tell you how much that guy impacted our team, and so like there are exceptions to that, and so I think you're kind of, you can overthink it by doing that sometimes, but I would like to say take the best player who can help us now and in the future, and worry about the second contract later.
Adam, we know that you've all made a priority of involving the coordinators and the coaches. How has that relationship kind of evolved into your third draft?
It's been like, in terms of, I'll just speak on the guys we have right now with Durante and David, and they've been fantastic. They've been really, really good. Got a chance we went to Ohio State together, but during the draft meetings, during the free agency meetings, there's been really a ton of open dialogue, which has been really good. Learning, because we just need to learn. We need to learn what they're trying to do, how they're trying to use certain guys, and that'll give us the answers, to bring up certain guys for them. And the back and forth has been really fun. Those guys, both of them are really smart. They're really, really smart. They're really good guys, and they really want to collaborate. So it's been really good so far.
How do you balance immediate impact versus growth potential? Is it as simple as early in the draft, I want someone that can help right away, and then as the draft goes on, or would you be open? Are you more open to having somebody that has that ability to grow, even if it's earlier in the draft?
Yeah, I think picking at 7, you'd hope you get somebody that can help you right away. I think other times, if you look into the later parts of the draft, there's some guys that aren't going to help you right away, depending on who you have there and where they are in their development. So I think you weigh that a little bit more later in the draft, but I think picking in the top 10, you really want to get somebody who can come in and play right away and impact your team year one.
I have to ask about Jaden. Just with everything he dealt with last season, was there any concern about him participating in the Fanatics football game? Did you watch it?
No, I try not to watch too much of it, but we talked about this really for, when did it start? When the thing came out, maybe in September. So we've had an open dialogue with Jaden about that throughout, and so obviously you're concerned. I think all of us probably are concerned about that. Not just me, probably me the most, but understanding that it's something that was important to him, and just talking about the risk versus reward and all that, and then he's got to make the decision on his own in terms of that. But we supported whatever he wanted to do, and the thing about Jaden, he loves football, he loves playing, he loves competing, and so I think that was something that was important to him. So I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he came out healthy.
On the Max Crosby situation in Baltimore, What can the league do that maybe could prevent that situation from unfolding in the future?
Oh man,
Is there anything?
I don't know. I mean, that's hard to answer. That's a big, long philosophical question that I'm just.
You don't want to be philosophical.
Yeah,
right
no,
now?
not right now.
Is there anything you do with the physicals that would? Because it came down to a lot about that.
I don't know all the specifics of that. Obviously, those two teams had talked and they understood what his health situation was, but I don't know in terms of the nitty gritty what went down there. But certainly, it does give you pause, and I don't know. There's a great answer for it though, John. Otherwise, they would probably had it already. I'm not like the answer guy. I'm more of like.
Generally, just what was your reaction?
My reaction, honestly, is I felt bad for Max. I felt bad for Max going to a new team, and this has nothing to do with the Ravens or the Raiders. First of all, those are both great GMs, guys that are friends of mine. So I'm not going to get into who was right and who was wrong, but it just felt bad for Max in terms of, going somewhere and that happening to him. But also I think it's a cool opportunity for him to go back to the Raiders now. So.
Got time for one more? You guys so far in your tenure here have kept a fair amount of cap space.
Yeah.
You right now have a lot, obviously you could still make more moves, but what's your general thought of how you want to use your cap space? Because I think there's some thought of hey, you guys have Jade under rookie contract, just go nuts. Why do you kind of go the way you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to hand it to Brandon and Rob for we're in a really healthy cap situation, and it's really good, and that's on purpose. But also understand that we spent a lot of money. We spent a ton of money, so it's not like we're not spending, but we're also doing a really good job staying in a healthy cap. That way, that does give us the ability, if we want to make a move, we can make a move, but it really keeps us so we're not having to make decisions that aren't the best decisions for the team because they're based on the cap. And you've seen that with teams, recently where there's certain things they want to do or try to do, but they can't do because of their cap situation. So this helps us really now, but also in the future as well.
I'm just essentially an ignorant part of this because I can't even balance my own bank account. Is there some notion of taking some of the money you spend in the years to come and spending it now if you have the space, so later on you're not, in a situation where you have to make some calls based on the cap?
I mean, that's one way to look at it, but I think I'll go back to that. We've spent a ton already. We spent a lot of money, and so there is. You do have. We have great ownership, and they've been really supportive of Dan and me in terms of what we wanted to do, and they've been able to do a ton of things in terms of not only on the field players, but off the field with what we've done with our facility and everything like that. So at the same time, you also want to be smart and not overspend. So I think that all goes into it as well.
Just briefly to that point, thank you. How much difference is there in the way you and Sasna and NFL people approach the cap and spending and contracts versus the way fans and media look at over the cap? How different are those?
They're pretty different. So, I mean, it is a little misleading at times when you're looking at that, but it does say that we do have flexibility. But in terms of if you look at what we've spent over the last few years, we've spent a lot, and so we've been really aggressive in terms of acquiring players and doing the things we need to do to be competitive. And Josh has given us that opportunity and flexibility. So I think there's a lot that's not in that website that goes into what we've been doing.
Sorry.
Go ahead. It's so interesting.
I know. Is cash the biggest thing, or is it structure, or kind of what do you?
Yeah, I think it's what you're spending cash, year over year, and I mean, I don't want to get into another philosophical debate here, but I mean, most teams spend over the cash over cap. They spend over the, whatever the cap is for that year, and we do too. And so, but at the same time, you do have to have some constraints, otherwise you're going to go crazy. And then what happens is you put yourself in a bad position.